In the system of Hatha Yoga, it aims at preparing us to have what is called as samadhi. And in the process of preparing us for samadhi, there are several steps for it. And one of the important steps for that is to ensure that you are not having tridosha imbalances. Yoga, like Ayurveda, comes from the philosophy of Sankhya. And in Sankhya, Prakriti, this whole creation, is discussed. In Vedanta, there is no description of creation as it is in Sankhya. Therefore, I am detouring a little bit just to give you this background also, the philosophical understanding and background also. Then I will come back to Laghu Shanga Prakshala. The Vedic Vedantic system, it borrows the concepts of creation from Sankhya. Because in Vedanta, this whole creation, according to Vedanta, is an apparent reality. It is not given true status in Advaita Siddhanta. So, when something does not exist, when something is only an appearance, how can there be a description of how creation happens when it is negated in the first place? Therefore, the system of Advaita borrows the idea of creation from Sankhya. And Sankhya describes how creation is done with the help of the three gunas: the sattva, rajas and the tamas. Tamas is the precipitating factor. Tamas is what makes matter to be together. They are trying to find out how matter is able to keep itself in a form together. That precipitation, that a matter can exist as matter, as a neutron, as a proton, as a electron, as a atom, as a molecule, as a compound, as all these things that chemistry describes to us, and the principles that are behind the chemistry, the physics of it. All of this is caused by the sattva, rajas and the tamas. And in the physical system, in matter, sattva, rajas and tamas manifest in the form of vata, pitta and kapha. And we have in our system, in the physical body, sites which are relating to these three doshas. Here, dosha has to be taken as a principle, not as a flaw. எங்கிட்ட ஒரு தோஷமும் இல்லை சார் சொல்லுவோம் இல்லையா, அங்கே வந்து அது ஃப்ளா. இங்கே தோஷம்னா ஃப்ளா இல்லை. இப்போ ஜலதோஷம் அப்படின்னு சொன்னால் ஃப்ளா இன் தி water element. But the water element is itself called as kapha dosha. So the three doshas, kapha, vata and pitta, they have got different sites in our body. வயிறு பத்தினி எரியுது, கண்ணெல்லாம் ஒரே எரிச்சலாக இருக்குது சொல்கிறோமா இல்லையா? டோன்ட் வி சே ஒரே கண்ணெல்லாம் எரியுது? டு வி சே மூக்கெல்லாம் எரியுது? has anybody said மூக்கெல்லாம் எரியுது சார்? ஏன் டாக்டர் சௌந்தர்யா யாராவது வந்து கேட்டிருக்காங்களா? டாக்டர் மூக்கெல்லாம் எரியுது என்ன பண்ணலாம்? கொஞ்சம் ஐஸ் வச்சு மூடிக்கலாம் கேட்டிருக்கேம்மா. ஏதாவது ஒரு கேஸ் வந்திருக்கா மூக்கு எரியுதுன்னு? இது வரைக்கும் ஹிஸ்ட்ரி ஆஃப் மெடிசனில் வந்ததே இல்லையா? வந்ததே இல்லையா? Because that is not the site for the fire element. The fire element is found in the stomach region. Even from the chakra perspective, Manipura chakra is the center for Agni Tattva. And the Indriya that is governed by Manipura chakra is Chakshu. Chakshurindriyam. Even if you look at form, creation, Akasha Tattva doesn't have form. Correct? Vayu Tattva also doesn't have form. What does Vayu Tattva have? Vayu Tattva has Sparsham. You can காற்று நன்னா அடிக்கிறது நான் பார்த்தேன்னு யாராவது சொல்ல முடியுமா? பாருங்களேன் எப்படி காற்று அடிக்கிறதுன்னு. மரம்லாம் ஆடுறது, ஸ்க்ரீன்லாம் ஆடுறது, காற்று அடிக்கிறதுன்னு புரிஞ்சுக்கிறேன்னு தான் சொல்ல முடியும். நான் என் கண்ணால் காற்று அடிக்கிறத பார்த்தேன்னு யாராவது ஒருத்தனை சொல்லுங்க. இப்போ நான் சொல்கிறேன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்களேன், இன்றைக்கி காலம்பரம் நான் மாடிக்கு போனேன், காற்று அடித்ததை பார்த்தேன். டாக்டர் சௌந்தர்யா என்ன சொல்லுவாங்க? பாவம் நல்லா இருந்தார் சார், கனவு போது காக்காய்க்கு வச்சதை சாப்பிட்டார் போல் இருக்கு, மென்டல் ஆயிட்டார். அப்போ வாயு தத்துவா does not have form. You cannot see it. You can only feel. Which element has form? The first element that has a form, a quasi form. Form ஆவும் இருக்கு, form இல்லாமலும் இருக்கு. It's called Agni. நெருப்புக்கு ரூபம் இருக்கா இல்லையா? ஹோமகுண்டம் ஃபோட்டோ எடுத்து பைரவர் வந்தார், பிரத்யங்கரா தேவி வந்தா பாருங்க எத்தனை நாக்கு கொடுங்க. அக்னி நாக்கு இல்லாமல் எப்படி இருக்கும்? சஹஸ்ர ஜிஹ்வானே பேர் அவளுக்கு, அவருக்கு நாக்கோட வந்திருக்காரு. அது பிரத்யங்கரா தேவி. கிருஷ்ணர் புல்லாங்குழல் வச்சுன்னு கமர் அது தெரியுது இருப்பார். அதில் பாரு இவா வந்திருக்கா, அதில் பாரு அவா வந்திருக்கா, நான் என் மாமா வந்திருக்கான்னு கூட நான் சொல்லலாம். But Agni has a quasi form. It has a form, doesn't have a form. That's the first time in the creation. எதுவுமே இல்லாத போது நீங்கள் கற்பனை பண்ணி பாருங்க. வெறும் ஆகாசம் இருந்தது. Only Akasha was there. Then there was Vayu, wind. Then came Agni. That is how the Sankhya philosophy describes. When Kapila Vasudeva explains it to his mother, that is how he explains it to her. So, Agni is the element which is found in our stomach region. அதனால தான் வயிறு பற்றி எரியுது சொல்கிறோம். எரிச்சல் எங்கே ஃபீல் பண்ணுறோம்? கண்ணில் ஃபீல் பண்ணுறோம். And Vayu has two locations in our body, primary locations. Of course, Agni is also present everywhere, Vayu is also present everywhere, all the tattvas are present everywhere, but primary site for Agni is the Jhatar Agni, they call it pet, stomach. The site of wind is the large intestine and the lung. And the site of water, you have two locations for the site of water. Of course, water is present everywhere, but two locations are there. The nasal cavity, this region, and the utero. where you have the kidney, the bladder, all those organs. And in the uterus, if you see, we are actually Udakumbha Janita Jivaha. We are all actually living inside a Udakumbha, pot of water. We have one person who is fortunate to see many pots here. How many pots have you broken so far? No count. Huh? Each time she breaks a pot, water spills out and a jiva comes out. We have a gynecologist here, so I am referring to her. So that region is the location for water. And it can become either absent or excess. And in Ayurveda, this is described in all the Sapta Dhatus. These three doshas can become excess or absent or disturbed. And when the doshas get affected, it becomes disease. And the first step in Hatha Yoga, I'll come back to today's topic. There was a detour, but it is very important. It gives you a background. How Hatha Yoga thinks. If you want to really be healthy, you should ensure that the three gunas are functioning inside you at the matter level as the three doshas properly. And these have implications at the physical, at the vital, at the psychological, the emotional, at the intellectual dimensions. If Agni becomes excess in the emotion, if there is no Agni at all in the emotion, there is no passion. Manager will shout at you, you don't have any passion. Have some passion in life. Passion. Agni has to be there in the emotion, right? So a balance is required for physical, vital, psychological, intellectual, psychic health. This is the basis, this is the foundation on which our personality is established. And in Hatha Yoga, there are several methods. There are 6 different methods that are there. And Basti was a very powerful method that our ancestors used to follow. Basti means cleansing of the lower digestive tract. Dhauti means cleansing of the upper digestive tract. You know, in the Chinese culture, if you are invited to a person's house for having lunch or dinner, they will feel offended if you do not belch. நல்லா சாப்பிட்டுட்டேன் அப்படிங்கிறத ப்ரூவ் பண்ண சாட்டிஸ்ஃபைட் அப்படிங்கிறதுக்கு என்ன பண்ணணும்? அப்படி ஏப்பம் விடணும். Even now, when a Brahmana comes for having a meal on the day of Shraddha, the Brahmana expresses to the family that he is satisfied by belching. In fact, belching is called as Varisara Dhauti. Varisara means using air for cleansing the upper digestive tract. You can actually swallow air and bring it out. It requires tremendous understanding, awareness and control over your own voluntary, involuntary functions. So you can just swallow air. அதே மாதிரி வஹ்னி சார தௌத்தின்னு ஒன்று இருக்குது. யூஸிங் ஃபயர் ஃபார் கிளென்சிங் த அப்பர் டைஜஸ்டிவ் ட்ராக்ட். உடனே வந்து ஒரு தீபந்தம் வச்சு நான் உள்ளே இறக்கி காமிப்பேன் நினைக்காதீங்க. வாரி சார தௌத்தி செஞ்சாலே வன்னி சார தௌத்தியும் செஞ்சு காமிக்கணும். That is what is called as Agni Sara Kriya. You will be learning Agni Sara Kriya in your program. You use air for cleansing the system, or you can use fire for cleansing the system. Sometimes when you want to do a particular dish, it's called gotsu in Tamil Nadu. Since we are recording for Tomac and people like that, Shruti and all that, I am telling you the Tamil name and then explaining. Katrika gotsu is one dish where the eggplant brinjal is put in fire directly. It's grilled. So the cooking process can be done with fire. It can be done with water. You can put it in water and heat it up. Or it can be sun-dried. Sun-dried tomato pizza means it will cost you 5 times more. சூரியனில் வச்சு காய வைக்கணுங்களா? Sun-dried tomato pickle, mango pickle is very famous because it will stay for a very long time. So pakam, cooking, cleansing can be done with the help of water, fire, air. The upper digestive tract can be cleaned. It is called as dhauti. The lower digestive tract can be cleaned. It is called as bhasti. And for doing bhasti, you have to perfect the practices of Mool Bandha, Udyana Bandha, and another practice called as Nauli Kriya, churning the abdominal muscles, and through the churning of the abdominal muscles, Vama Nauli, Dakshina Nauli. By churning it in the clockwise direction and anti-clockwise direction, and Madhyama Nauli, by contracting both the sides and bringing the entire intestinal region into the center. These are the 3 types of Nauli that are done: Vama Nauli, Dakshina Nauli, and Madhyama Nauli. Through this process, the intestines are washed. And in order to wash the intestine, you have to use water. For that, our ancestors, they went into fresh water bodies. They did the practice of Mool Bandha and Udyana Bandha. Then after doing Udyana Bandha intensely, they released the Mool Bandha. And then they sucked water through the anal passage into the large intestine. Today we have to do it forcefully for people with constipation, for long-standing constipation. If laxatives don't work, we give what is called as enema. Even before surgeries, enema is given. Naturally, it can be done with the help of bhasti. So if you can teach Laghu Shanka Prakshalanasana to your pregnant students, your patients, if they can do the practice and cleanse their system, they will not require a enema at that time. Nevertheless, it can be used because it's a medical procedure. At that time, it is mandatory. But on a frequent basis, Hatha Yoga recommends us to keep the nasal passage clean, to keep the frontal lobe of the brain active, to keep the throat, the food pipe clean, to keep the lower digestive tract from the duodenum up to the rectum, the lower digestive tract to be clean. Through this process, we can ensure that the imbalances in the wind, the imbalances in the fire, and in the imbalances in the water element. Lot of people have gastritis. Gastritis triggered acidic problem. They have a reflex acidic problem. They have a burning sensation up to the throat because a little bit of bile moves upward due to gastric imbalances. So these problems can be completely eliminated. In fact, the stomach and the small intestine and the large intestine are areas which are actually grey areas for medical science. If someone comes with a complaint, sir, stomach is paining, it is not a statement of someone who has knowledge of anatomy and physiology. It is a layman's expression. Stomach is paining. Stomach paining, we don't know. It can be pain in the esophagus. It can be pain in the stomach. It can be pain in the duodenum. It can be pain in the pancreas. It can be pain in the liver. It can be pain in the small intestine. It can be pain in the large intestine. You agree with me, ma? Stomach pain nu solriyappa ivlo irukudhe idhula edu valikudunu ketta enna pannuvan aluvan. And you also don't know where it is paining for him. So there is some problem. Where is the problem? So you ask questions. Earlier they used to ask questions. Motion la olunga poguda, pasi edukudha, thirumbi pasi edukudha, inga erida. Then they will place the hand and tap. இப்போ அதெல்லாம் பண்ணுறதே இல்லை. டாக்டர்ஸ்க்கு கையே இல்லாத மாதிரி இருக்குது. இப்போ எல்லாத்துக்கும் ஒரு எழுதி கொடுத்துட்றாங்க, இது செக் பண்ணு அப்படின்னு. I remember my doctor used to press. He used to press. என்னடா ஹோட்டலில் சாப்பிட்டியா அப்படின்னு கேட்பாரு. He will immediately find out. So this entire region, beginning from the nasal orifice up to the anal orifice, this entire region needs to be maintained healthy. And interestingly, the entire region, beginning from the nasal passage up to the anus, the entire region has a thin film of water. To paint that thin film of water, I don't know how many people are working inside our body. It is a miracle. If this thin film becomes thick film, it is a problem. If the thin film dries up, that is another problem. If it becomes thick film in this region, you will keep on spitting. If it happens in the lower system, you will have indigestion, imbalance in digestion, slimy motion will be there. Lot of issues will become evident. If wind becomes excess, it can keep on coming as belching, or it can keep on coming as flatulence. It can keep on manifesting if it goes beyond this site. It's supposed to be here. If it leaves this site and if it enters the upper region, a lot of people get confused between a heart attack and a gastritis. Many people, when they feel uneasy, they immediately have inji sara and all. They may be actually getting a mild heart attack. It can disturb the whole system. It can become arthritis. It can move into the joints. If wind moves into the bone, it becomes a very big problem. The bone has pores in which some amount of air is required. But if too much air enters into the bone, it becomes dry. And when the bone becomes dry, it becomes brittle. Osteoporosis, osteoarthritis problems are there. People suffer because of pain. And excess wind can dry up all the lubricants in all the joints. A good health is warranted only when the three doshas are in balance. Now coming to Laghu Shanka Prakshalanasana, because a lot of people do not have access to clean water bodies. Because a lot of people do not have discipline to learn and practice these practices for a long time. Because people have become finicky about external appearances and not willing to do this internal cleansing, shitting, puking, what all this everyday way I should do. I want ice creams that can go in. I don't want salt water to go in. I don't want loose motion. I want diarrhea. If it happens diarrhea because I ate 5 pizzas, that is okay. I will do, instead of Laghu Shanka Prakshalanasana, I will do Pizza Shanka Prakshalanasana. No, you will eat 5-6 pieces of pizza, what will happen? Because of indigestion, it will be Virachanam only. That I am okay, because for my tongue, for my eye, for my nose, it has to be appealing. We have become like that. We have become very sense-dependent, predominantly sense-dependent people. Understanding this condition, Swami Satyananda developed the practice of Laghu Shanka Prakshalanasana, which was not there before the 1960s. Before 1960, if you had to do this practice, you've seen Baba Ramdev's show in Asta channel, no? Churning the stomach, he does like that, dig, 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 he does like that. Haven't you seen it many times? If you have to do that, what will happen? Online program. Ella topa kaam chendu. I think Swami Satyananda was a great visionary. So he developed this practice. He was the one who created this practice where you consume 2 glasses of salt water. After consuming 2 glasses of lukewarm salt water, you do Tadasana, then you do Tiryak Tadasana, then you do Kati Chakrasana, then you do Tiryak Bhujangasana, then you do Udarkarshanasana. And Ramyaji was asking, why this sequence? It's a very interesting understanding of the physiology and the anatomy. You do have 2 glasses of water and stretch yourself. The water goes down. Then when you bend from side to side, it is pushed through the sides, the walls of the stomach into the duodenum, into the small intestine. The small intestine is not left, it is massaged. When you twist again, it is further pushed down into the small intestine because gravity is already working. On top of that, when you apply this pressure, this water does not get into the renal system. We don't allow this water into the normal procedure where it goes into the renal system utilized for absorption into the cells. Instead of that, it is used as a flush out mechanism through the physical postures. That's why we don't want you to do the practices of the asanas meant for Laghu Shanka Prakshalanasana slowly like how we normally do. We don't want absorption to take place. At the cellular level, because of osmotic pressure, the liquids are able to be absorbed inside the system at the small intestine. It happens at the mouth also, it happens in the small intestine also. Absorption can happen in the mouth. Direct digestion, it's fantastic. That is why they used to say, have a mouthful of food and chew it, roll it many times. They even say 32 times you have to do and all that. Purpose is, in the mouth, the cell arrangement in such a way that directly from the chyme, the liquid which is created, absorption can take place, which will go into your bloodstream. Same thing, if it has to happen again inside the body, then it's a different process. It has to go to the stomach, it has to be cleansed with hydrochloric acid, then bile has to be added to it, lot of things have to happen, then it has to go to the whole system in a different way. So instead of absorption taking place, we quickly consume it and quickly do the practices. The upward stretch allows the water to come down all the way. The side stretch and the twisting works on the small intestine and the large intestine. And when you do the last two practices, when you raise up and twist this side and then come down, raise up and twist this side, you are working on the large intestine. You have one on the left side, you have a transverse colon, and then you have a descending colon. You are working on all the three. When you raise up and twist to this side and come down, raise up and twist to that